Hey everybody, welcome to Good Thinking. It's a show for everyday people dealing with everyday life. I'm Scott Wilson, global pastor here at Oaks Church, and also my good friend, best counselor in the world. I probably shouldn't say that all the time. I keep going, I can't help it. That's how I feel about you.
Well, I'm not paying you to say that.
No, you aren't, but I don't want to put pressure on you like you're going like, oh crap, I got to live up to that. Listen. I appreciate every time we're together.
Yeah,
I learn. This show has become an additional therapy session for me. It's awesome as we talk about these different things. And man, are we in a place right now where we need help?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Man, we need good thinking big time.
Yes, for sure.
And I mean, like, I know that, you know, this isn't your full-time gig. You have a whole counseling practice. And I would think right now you're working a little overtime.
Yeah, I think it's not just overtime in sessions. I'm trying to accommodate all of my people because I have some of the best people in the world with me, but it's also working overtime on the energy. Last time we were talking about energy, and so this is a time where we've all been going through the same things. It's not like, okay, you're dealing with this right now, and that doesn't necessarily trigger me. But right now, when someone's talking about COVID-19 or someone's talking about, you know, we're grieving as a country, the loss of life, George Floyd. I mean, we're walking through that right now, and so they're struggling with it. I'm struggling with it. We're walking through that together.
That is interesting. I mean, it's one thing that unites us in the sense of we're all dealing with the same thing, but it also is when somebody's dealing with something. Sometimes you can kind of have a boundary or a distance to it of, okay, let me help you with your issue. But their issue's triggering your same issue. Yes. It's like right now with me going through grief with my dad. If somebody's talking about losing someone, it triggers that in me too. Yes. That's the same thing we have right now. The grief that we're having, we share so we can empathize maybe better, but we're also dealing with our own junk. Yes.
And that's, we are one people and we're united. And you know, one of the things that we're kind of following up on is on Sunday we had a conversation with Pastor Chris. He did a great job talking about race and the restoration process, that we're not, it's not the finish line, it's the beginning of this.
Yes.
And that is not just biblical. It's not just something that we're looking at from a biblical or a cultural perspective, but it's a process that has to be practically walked out.
And don't you think right now, everyone is fully aware right now of, man, there is a lot of stuff we're dealing with. Yes. But the thing is it's just like icing on the cake for a lot of us, because I was already stressed.
Yes.
I mean, a bunch of us were already dealing with anxiety. We were already having our issues with our marriage or with our kids or with our work or with our health. And then now this is on top. And so, man, how do we deal with this? How do we cope with it? In fact, that just is funny. I just said cope, because that's what I think we should talk about today is how do we deal with it? And what is this coping thought? Is that a negative, a bad thing, a good thing? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And part of what we have to understand in this conversation is that it's not just, you said we, and we is very key. It's not like, I just want to deal with what I'm dealing with. It's that even as a counselor or as a pastor or as a community, we are trying to cope with all that's going on, and we want to validate what everybody else is going through. And coping comes from this idea that, think about if we're walking and we sprain our ankle.
Okay.
Immediately what we're going to do is we're going to take the weight off of that ankle. That's a coping strategy. In that moment, we pick up that foot and we stop walking on it, and we might hobble to a bench or to the curb and sit there. And that's the first stage of coping, is you want to do something to just take
relieve
that. So
it.
Relief. And then really what we're trying to do longer term is to resolve.
Wow.
To resolve.
To get it healed.
Yes. And so you might use crutches, you might use physical therapy. There's this process that's laid out. And so we look at this from a systems perspective. You have a digestive system, you have a mind and brain system, or your relationship with your wife is a system, your relationship with your family. All of these are systems, and systems want to be in a state of order, peace, and harmony.
Absolutely.
And when we experience pain or trauma or stress, we either move to rigidity or we move to chaos.
Wow. Okay. Wait.
So let's unpack that.
Yeah, do it, because you get this.
Let's
I can
unpack it.
tell this is gold right here.
So right now, like I said, the key word in this conversation, Pastor Scott, is we. We are going through this.
We are. Yeah.
COVID did not respect people. It hit all of us, and there are thousands that are grieving now. Thousands were lost, but thousands are grieving now. And George Floyd and every other person that is so dear to us and so dear to God, I mean, the list is too long. It's too long. We are dealing with that. So we see our culture and we see these swings going from chaos or rigidity, and we're striving for that order. And so part of it is what we're going to have to talk through is how much of it needs to be relief and how much of it needs to be resolution. Because we're trying to get back to that healthy state.
Yeah, tell me about the rigidity and the chaos. Is that important for me to understand? Or
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. So rigidity, the easiest way to think about it is that when we get into a state of pain, sometimes we not want to not use that leg at all. So going back to the easiest analogy, is we might just stay off that leg forever, and if we do that, then we're going to have atrophy. Our muscles are going to deteriorate. I mean, everything's going to get unhealthy about that leg if we just stop using it. So there's this rigidity of like, I'm in pain, so I'm just going to avoid it.
Got it. Okay.
Avoid it. And so taking that on the mental level, just being on social media like we were talking about last time, or just watching these things that are distracting, it's more in this avoidance, and we're not actually dealing with the problem. There is relief that's coming from that, but it's not bringing resolution. So you can get so rigid in your thinking that you're not even acknowledging all the other things that need to be there. So you're almost like sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich and not paying attention to all the things that are going on.
What if I say I just don't want to look at that stuff? I don't want to watch the news anymore. I don't want to. I mean, maybe I did it wrong, but I'll tell you, I actually got off of a couple of my social media apps. I'm going like, man, I can't see another thing or hear another thing. Did I do wrong on that? Because I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I think it's what we're talking about is there's breaks. We need to know what's going on long term.
Yeah.
So there's these moments where you need to not walk on that ankle. You might need to check social media once or twice a day. It might be every other day. But the point is to pay attention to the people that are still in pain. We don't want to silence.
See, yeah, that's it. It's not like I'm trying to say I don't care about people or I'm not engaging with people.
Yeah.
I just I got to get off of that. Right.
You might not be able to see it in real time, and that's the difference with social media. Is it's good to maybe you're checking the news and trying to stay balanced and understand all that's going on, because it is it's all of us going through that. But if you're looking at everything that's happening in real time, you're going to stay in this state of chaos, right? And that's not good either. That's not healthy. And it doesn't mean that we don't care. It just means that we might not even be able to get our work done. We might not be able to do all the other things that we need to do in order to be healthy enough to actually make a change and get to the place where we're making resolutions to the real problems that we have.
So the rigidity would be, I'm going to stay off of it. The chaotic would be, is that I'm so engaged with these different things, I'm not even moving towards a direction that's healthy. I'm all over the place.
Yeah. So this idea of harmony, it's harmonizing between the relief aspect and the resolution.
Okay.
And so we're trying to walk in that balance and in that state of where we're at.
We'll be right back with Good Thinking. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. If you have a topic or question you would like us to address on the show, you can submit that by clicking the link in the show description.
So what strategies can I use?
Yeah.
That would be good. I mean, there's some strategies here that are going to not only bring me some relief, but then move me to resolution.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we have to start with asking ourselves that question, because like if you come to me with a problem, depending on what I prefer in that situation, I might prefer to go resolution first, and then whatever emotion is left over, I'll just try and get some relief from. So the theory is you have problem-focused coping and you have emotion-focused coping. Problem-focused is going on resolution. Okay?
So if I fix the problem, then I won't have the pain of it.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
That's the idea. So sometimes we think that, okay, if I'm just going to focus on the problem, I'm just going to deal with the problem, and the emotion doesn't matter as much. And then the other one, the emotion focus, is basically saying we need relief right now. There needs to be some level of relief. So depending on you, on what you prefer, that's what you usually want to give to somebody else. So for us, you have to know what is it that you want. And it may change from conversation to conversation. It may change from situation to situation. But emotion focus might be validation, expressing the emotion. You're letting these things out. We've talked a lot about of just increasing your awareness of the things that you're feeling, being there in that moment. Because we've all been in that situation with someone where we opened up to them, we were vulnerable, and they went problem focused on us. They're already going down that road, and they're trying to share all of these things, and it's good stuff. It's well-meaning information.
So you're saying sometimes that can happen in a marriage.
In a marriage,
like Jenny's telling me stuff she's just wanting me to listen to, and I'm trying to fix it.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's the fix it, which is good.
And she'll look at me and she goes, listen, I just need to just say it. That's why one of the things my counselor helped me with is he goes, how about just ask her ahead of time when she says, can I talk to you? I said, okay, am I in a fix-it mode?
Yeah.
You want me to engage and talk about it, or do you want me to just listen?
Yes.
So that we can get on the same page on that. But that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that takes the awareness for ourselves of what do we need in that moment. And so for us as individuals, for us as families, for us as a community, we're somewhere on that spectrum of there needs to be this healthy balance and harmony between what are we doing to provide relief right now? How can we just be there? And that's why it's so confusing in this climate of how much do we just need to say, I'm sorry. I'm heartbroken. This is hurting. I'm with you. This is hard. It's hard for us. So we're just focused on the emotion in that way. And we're able to provide some of that relief. And the relief doesn't mean it goes away. It's the relief of the expression of the grief or of the trauma. And that's a big part of where we need to be individually, where we need to be in our families and in our communities. But notice, if you look at social media, when you have been on there, and if you're looking at the news media, is people are moving past the relief, though, and saying, how are we going to resolve this? What are we going to do? Where's the action going to be?
So is that good or bad?
I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to think about that, but that's where we have to have questions that help us say, okay, the idea, the anger, the frustration can lead us to focus on the problem and find the resolution. But it can also go to an extreme of chaos or rigidity. So the strategy in and of itself is helping us say, we can't just provide emotion-focused coping. We can start there. If somebody needs that, and if somebody's asking for that, then we start there. But then how do we get to a place where we can take action? How do we get to a place where we can do something that is healthy? Number one, that's how we know that a coping strategy is healthy, is good. A good coping strategy is healthy and it's helpful. It makes things better. So when you say is the action,
I would have
helpful?
Always thought of any coping, and if anybody says, "Man, you're just doing that to cope," I would have thought of that in a negative way. But now you're bringing light on it. Is it's relief that can come to resolution?
Yes.
Well, can you give me some examples of good strategies, coping strategies, and or we can start. Why don't we start with negative?
Yeah.
So what are negative ones?
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, I feel like food is a go-to for me.
Yes.
I was doing so good
Yes.
at the beginning of the year. I mean, I lost 20 pounds, and then now with it sheltering in place, and then I'm making transitions in my job, which was all what I wanted to do, but still you know, what I knew God wanted me to do. I mean, those of you who are watching, I moved to global pastor. But with that transition and all that was in it, staying, sheltering in place, how do you lead the church in transition, plus all that's going on, I mean, all that stuff. Man, I hate to admit it. I'm just trying to be vulnerable on it and kind of even give my help. I medicated with the food, man, and gained the 20 back, and I'm going like, how, dude, I feel like a failure on that, Yeah.
So, and just on that one, there's so many of us that are there. And so when you find yourself emotional eating, for example, it's because you need healthy, helpful, emotion-focused coping. That's your mind and body are saying, hey, you need some relief here. But we're going to this extreme, and I'm eating all of the cookies that are left in the bag. And so I'm crying out for this emotion-focused help, but it's something that's helping me feel better. So it is bringing relief, but it's not healthy. And so that's why we're asking ourselves, what's healthy and helpful? Mm-hmm. So not just relief at any cost. I mean, and you know this, like there's sexual coping strategies like pornography or explicit material. That's another one that people go to, and it feels better. It can provide some relief for a time, but there are so many risks involved in that. Drugs, alcohol, overusing doctor-prescribed medications. I mean, there are these things that they're emotion-focused, and so your body and mind are asking for it. And so that's helpful of like, okay, if I'm wanting to do this thing, but how do I get to a healthy place?
Yeah, it may give you the relief or what you're calling, what is the coping, like if I can get away,
escape,
type.
avoidance. Those are some of the technical terms that we use, and it's taking it to an extreme in that.
What are the dangers of those things if you're taking it? I guess it's just obvious, but yeah. I mean, sometimes does it help you to know that if you overdo that, it could hurt, or the coping is such an issue that you don't give a rip?
The dangers of a lot of those things are addiction, because there's this dependence that we get on those things because it's providing relief. And so we just keep on going back to it, and it's not healthy, but it's helpful in some way. And so then it starts bleeding over or impacting other areas of life. And so that's the dependence. Some people don't like the word addiction. It doesn't matter. The point is that that's what you're going to. We have this go-to fake emotion-focused coping strategy, wow. And it doesn't help us in all areas. It helps us in one area, but it hurts us in another.
If I want to go healthy, helpful and healthy, what do those strategies look like? Because I mean, I think it's funny to me because I'm going like, well, what is the good stuff anyway? Is it go running? Maybe it's that.
Yes.
Maybe it's skateboarding, like you say, or playing golf or something.
It's an experiment, and what I love about this is there's this checklist that's we're gonna have this link in the show notes, and you'll see it in the description. That it has 99 suggestions.
Really?
99 suggestions, and not all 99 hit me, but you just go through and you click and the checkbox. And then you hit submit, and it'll put them all in a space for you, so you can screenshot it, have it on your phone. And so I'm really excited to give that to you, and all those people that are watching.
Yeah,
and
guys, you got to check that out. Don't just do the show. Like let's activate this thing.
Yeah. So something that's on there is praying, reading the Bible, but it's also like knitting or organizing your room or watching a funny movie. Like there's so many different things that when you read those, you might say, well, I wouldn't do that, but I would do this. So just get your brain moving in that direction. Say all those things for me these things would be healthy and helpful. And that's where we're trying to go in that way. So
wow, so 99 of them I can look at, and it's kind of like what we said last time on the rest deal is, and that's good.
Yeah.
I'm looking for
good.
that when I do. Man, that was
We want it to be good. Yeah, we want it to be good. And I think that's why we needed to talk about this time, because some people are listening to rest and they're like, I'm not even there yet. I just need to cope. I just need to make it through my day. So this is what we're looking at. You look at those 99, those are some things that are super helpful there.
Okay, let me ask you, like, it seems like people are hopeless in feeling about the racial stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to say it, racial stuff. I mean, about hate, about abuse. I mean, we've talked about that, how you've experienced some of that personally and in your family.
Yeah.
And that there can just feel like no matter what I do, there's going to be some profiling, there's going to be prejudice, there's going to be things that play out. And is that what's playing out on the streets? Is there a coping that is going on with that could be healthy or not healthy, and the protests that move into riots or looting and all of that? I'm watching and I'm trying to figure out what is this?
Yeah. The key word for us to understand this is trauma. Is just that when we experience trauma, we are not in that harmony. We're not in that balanced state. We're moving towards chaos or rigidity just to make it, just to survive. And for so many of us in this country right now, it's trauma. And trauma is just a fancy word for wound. It's a mental, emotional, social, relational, societal wound that people are experiencing. And so some of it could be considered coping, somewhere in the emotion focus to the problem focus. And some of it is taking it to the extreme of going just like eating or whatever it is. Those things are happening. And so for us, I think what we would say is, talking about the problem focused is just like there's emotion focused stuff that's not healthy, like emotional eating. With problem focused, sometimes we get so wounded that we're doing things that are problem focused. It's something that we think will help, but it's not completely healthy and it's not helpful. And I was listening to a conversation that we'll provide a link to with Bishop T.D. Jakes and Carl Lenz, and they were just talking about how this is all of our issue. We're the human race. This is all of us, and all of us have to be a part of the resolution. All of us have to be a part of the problem solving aspect of it, because he talked about how he's not encouraging the rioting, he's not encouraging those things, and there's so many people that have been very clear on that, but they get it, they understand the trauma, they understand the pain that we're going in, and for a lot of us that have never experienced racism or racial insensitivity or racial discrimination, it's hard to relate to it. You might be able to try to understand, but it's hard. It's not like if I said, like both of us, we just said that we emotionally eat. Like we can get, we're there. If you've never experienced racism, it's hard to know what that trauma feels like, because racism and racial expression and racial experiences, it's a trauma.
I like what you just said, is that I can go there and empathize with people who had the same coping mechanisms or the issues that I have. But if it's not my issue, sometimes I go, what's wrong with those people doing those drugs?
Yeah.
Why are you drinking yourself to death?
Yes.
And yet what I'm doing is I'm saying that's not my issue, so I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I have perhaps a lack of empathy or sensitivity to it. But when I compare that to why can't I stop eating, or why do I have gluttony issue? I mean, that. Then I go, I get this because that's normal. That's not normal. Well, it's not normal or abnormal. It's what their issue is.
Yeah, there was a guy that had a smoking problem, and he had quit, and he had been doing so well, and he got home early one day, was really stressed, and he lit up and he was smoking, and his wife got there and she was just so disappointed. She said, there's been so many days that you've been clean, you haven't been doing this, and then you give it all up. I can't believe you. And he said, he just wept. He wept and said, I just want you to think, what would it take to give up all of those days of not smoking? And how bad would your day have to be to choose a cigarette after all those days of not doing it? And she got it. She got that he needed emotion-focused coping in that moment, and then deal with the problem later. But everything that's happening in the country is screaming out, this is the level of pain that people are in. This is the level of years and years of things that have gone on, and there's so much more there. That the key words right now are, you got to listen and you have to learn. Those are two problem-focused, healthy strategies in this. We have to listen, because when we're talking, we're not able to process. We're not able to understand what the problem really is. And the first step of problem-focused coping is understanding the problem.
We hope you're enjoying today's episode of Good Thinking. If you would like more information about the books or resources related to this episode, make sure and check out the links in the show description. And while you're there, because of course you want to be notified of new episodes, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button on our podcast or YouTube page. And now, back to Good Thinking with Scott and Peter.
All right. The thing I think that is most frustrating about this is there's no quick solution.
No.
Even if we're problem focused, even if we're saying, I'm going to get relief to resolve.
Yes.
It's so deep and it's so far reaching and it's so outside of things that I can do myself. So like, what can I do to change it?
Yeah.
I can only think of there's probably multiple ones, but I want to share just the biggest change that's happened in me.
Okay.
The listen and learn deal has been huge. When I met a friend, Aaron Blake, Bishop Aaron Blake, and when Bishop invited me over to his house, I sat down at his house. Jenny and I went over there, and he and Mary sat down, and me and Jenny sat there, and we ate together, and we sat there at their table in their house for about 2.5 hours. And all I did is I said to him, tell me your story.
Yeah.
And he told me, and I asked questions about it, and he told me, and it wasn't like, tell me your racial story.
Yeah. No, it's
you know,
bigger
tell
than
me
that.
your, you know, Bishop's an African-American gentleman. He's incredible. He's one of our overseers at the church. He's one of my dear, dear friends.
Yeah.
But I just said, if I'm going to learn, and I got to have a friend who can help me. Then he turned around and he said, hey, Scott, why don't you tell me your story? And I began to tell him my story and different things going on. And he got tears in his eyes, and he hugged me and he said, I hear you. And then we had them come over our house, and we did it again. And then he and I, every time anything happens, any question I have, I'm not talking about anything like, even on this, we have talked about it, but I'm not talking about a George Floyd, you know, Ahmaud, you know, Aubrey. I'm not just those things. I'm talking about, I have a question. I don't know how to talk to this person. I don't know how to deal with this. I call him, and he does the same with me, and we talk, you know, that I'm telling you, when it's just black people or Latino people or Anglo people, man, no matter who is the other for you, if it just remains this group that is the other, you're going to have formulated opinions and different things that are you can't help it. It's just you're grouping it together. But when I sit down and Aaron is my friend, Bishop's my friend, and he tells me his pain, it's different. He tells me his story, it's different. When I go like, man, hey, you just need to not mouth off to the cop or whatever. So I don't get it because it's not my world. That's so insensitive on that. Stupid, okay? But when I sit down and Bishop's telling me he can't even get into his own subdivision without being profiled and somebody pulling over, and he owns the house. I mean, when stuff like that happens, when it's just, what? Are you kidding me? You know, so what I'm saying is when I'm listening and I'm learning, and then when I said, hey, Bishop, you know, me and another pastor friend of mine, Anthony Scoma, we've been talking with Bishop, and the three of us, we saw Just Mercy. If you haven't seen that movie, it's unbelievable. In the book, we read the book together, and then we went and saw the movie. What are we doing? We're listening and learning, and we're putting ourselves in courageous conversations. It's not easy. When we went and saw the movie, it's so messed up. Have you seen it? Do you know what it's about?
Yeah.
It is so terrible that when we got in the car, me and Jenny are sitting in the front. Bishop and Mary are sitting in the middle, and two of our board members who are Anglo, they're sitting in the back. And when we got in the car, I just turned back to Bishop and I said, I'm sorry. And he's crying. I mean, tears coming out his face, and his hands are over his face like this. And it was so emotional. Literally, we sat there. You know how long 10 minutes is, and that type of, with no talking. And all I just kept going, I'm so sorry. And Mary's crying, looking out the window. And finally, when we started talking, he just says, I don't even know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to say. And then we ended up sitting in the parking lot for an hour and a half. The six of us, and him just talking about his dad and talking about Mary. Mary just going, how about next time we go see a funny movie together? It has nothing to do with black, white, and people. And I said, we can do that, Mary, because this is deeper than that. But I just can't skip over the minute. So we, for an hour and a half, sitting in the parking lot together. And then we met later, Anthony and me and Bishop just met together and sat and talked about it and talked about what can we do and how can we move forward. I mean, we're even talking about at the church, maybe showing the movie and having tables of, but listen, if all you ever do is eat with people who look like you, grew up like you, you're never going to understand anything else. And it isn't even like just watching a movie or something. It's getting friends that you can ask questions. And here's the deal. I have issues where I was trying to help people who were different than me and love people different than me and reach out and help people different than me. And I got my hand slapped.
Yeah.
And I got beat back like, hey, we don't need your white help. We don't need, all this. So please, anybody who's listening to me, listen to the end, okay? Don't get like, well, we don't, okay? I was trying genuinely. And you know what Bishop said to me? He said, you're just dumb and don't know it. The way you're saying it and the way you're doing it, you just don't understand. What you needed is an interpreter, and you needed me there saying, he's dumb. He don't know better, but his heart's good. Yeah. And let's bring him in and educate him.
Yes.
And so here's the thing, is we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. And if we don't listen, if we don't learn, we're never going to come to a place where we have true relief and health and help.
Because we need them both. We need them both. Thank you for sharing that story. I love Bishop. I'm so grateful for him. I mean, he's a tremendous blessing to this community and our country and our world. And I think that he has provided such a wonderful perspective. And for us, it's relationships. You know, I think that yes, there is real hate. Yes, there is real racism. Those are things that are there. But what hits those wounds that us people of color have, a lot of the time, is the ignorance. Like you're saying, we haven't known the way to increase our awareness and having those conversations. I mean, there's so many of us that, like me, even though I'm not black, I'm Mexican American, I have a story. If you sit down, we can talk about the moments that I've been running and I've seen somebody look at me with fear and they've gone on the other side of the street. I've walked by in just a hoodie and seen people look at me with fear and lock their doors. And I don't fully understand that. I don't understand. And there's stories like that throughout my whole life. And I think about, I'm the one that's going to protect you if something happens. I'm a protective person. I'm going to help you. But it's that prejudging, that prejudice that doesn't even give me a chance to speak for myself. And that's the beauty of this time, this moment that we're in right now, is it's the we. The we is coming together. Us saying there's not us and them. There's people of color and there's white people, and there's all of these different races and colors and ethnicities and cultures, and we're saying we are the human race. And this is not a black community problem. This is a global problem. Yes. This is our problem, and we're grieving. Maybe we're not grieving feeling the same things. We want to honor that. It might not feel the same as somebody else that we're talking to in that moment, but we're grieving. I've shed tears. And it's not that it's about me, but it's about we. It's about us coming together. And that is what gives me hope. And that's what gives me hope in saying we need to continue to do emotion-focused coping and problem-focused coping, and we will see progress. I believe it with all my heart. And I know that it's not just about having an interview with a person of color. It's not just about that. It's the lifelong relationships. And I know Bishop is going to be in your life
forever.
I mean, he's that kind of guy, and that's one thing that I would say, is that unfortunately, when people are grieving, we're there for the funeral, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, we drop off. In this time, there does not need to be a drop off.
This isn't the time to have a Tuesday, blackout Tuesday, but then not have the rest of our lives saying, I'm in to make a change and to love and to serve and to listen.
The strategies that we develop in these conversations, we need to continue to walk out for the rest of our lives. And that's what's going to bring change. That's what I mean, so many great people are saying that, and there's hope now. But we have to acknowledge that there is real pain right now. So we have to use wisdom in walking that balance of providing the relief and grieving with those who grieve, but then also taking action. And I think that's what we want to hedge this conversation in. That's why if somebody is asking for problem-focused coping and you give them emotion-focused help, they're crying out. They're saying, we need to work on it. I'm not looking to everybody to give me the answers. I'm just saying, can we just be asking the questions? What can we do? What can we do together? And we might not know for 3 months, but we keep on asking, we keep on praying, we keep on walking together. That's what's brought about the change. That's what's got us to this point, and there's still more work to be done.
So good, man. So good. Hey, you know what it's time for, and I think we really need it.
Oh, man.
And that is 30 seconds of gratitude.
Yeah.
Will you break it down for us? Tell us how to do this.
Yeah, in a previous episode, we talked about all of the benefits, holistic. I mean, just think about every part of you. There's holistic benefits to taking some time out to think about what you're grateful for. And this is a time, again, gratitude and grief can coexist. We can grieve and be grateful at the same time. And so we're thinking about things right now. We're going to make a list in 30 seconds, and these things could be big, they could be small, and we just want to allow our minds to focus on that. Let's go. Again, it goes by so quickly. I just got 10 things this time. How many did you get?
My gosh, you're so much better at this. I get stuck on, I only got 2.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm only going to ask you to share one of them. Can you share, or both? I mean, you only have 2.
I'm thankful for Bishop.
Oh, man.
I wrote it down that his patience. So I guess if I wanted to go 10 like you, I could go down a whole bunch on Bishop. But I'm thankful that he's my friend. I'm thankful he didn't give up on me. I'm thankful that he talks to me and is patient with me and doesn't judge me when I ask questions, and he doesn't go, that's so stupid. But he's patient with me.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that I wrote here was unity. You know, I've seen unity. I know there's a lot going on, but in the midst of that, I mean, the silver lining to me has been unity. And I'll tell you, my favorite word is university, because it's the combination of unity and diversity. And again, it doesn't university, it doesn't have that connotation for everybody, but I think about that word of like, that's what we need. We don't need one thing. We need unity in diversity. And so that one thing is the unity. And the second thing is the church. I've seen the church step up. And are we doing everything we're going to do? No. But I hear people committing, not just saying things, but doing things now and saying we're going to keep doing them. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that that's going to keep going, and that's what excites me, and it gives me the strength to continue to grieve and be grateful.
Thanks for listening to Good Thinking. This is a show for everyday people dealing with everyday life. I'm Scott Wilson, global pastor here at Oaks Church, and Peter Pignon, greatest counselor on earth. Thanks for being with us. Till next time.